Okay, welcome back. Good morning to all. Last class we discussed about the message digest method. Now today is going to discuss about the authentication token. Authentication token is an immensely useful alternative to password. It is a small device that generates a new random value every time it is used, and this random value is used for authenticating the users. The component of authentication token is processor, LCD for displaying output, battery, a small keypad for entering information, and real-time clock. So authentication token is nothing. It is just alternative of the password. It is small device, generates a new random value every time, like OTP, one-time password. This is the value is randomly generated every time, and this random value is used for authenticating the user. Working of authentication token, creation of token, use of token, server response. So these are the working of authentication token. So creation token, when an authentication token is created, the corresponding random seed is generated for the token by the authentication server. The seed is automatically used by the authentication token, due to the which the value of the seed is not known by the user, and this seed is pre-programmed inside the token, and as well as its entry is made against that user's record in the user database. So this is the creation of token. How to create a token? Now when authentication token is created, the corresponding random seed is generated for the token by the authentication server. Next is your use of token. Use of token, and authentication token automatically generates pseudo-random number called the one-time password or one-time passcode. Right, so whatever I have discussed, so this is the OTP, one type of, and once they are used, they cannot be reused like OTP. Just OTP is what? That is a token, and this one-time password is basically a 4-digit PIN, and also depend upon the whatever the setting, maybe 6 digit, maybe 4 digit, but what? So maximum 4 to 6 digit, maximum 4 digit or 6 digit tokens are applied. Some important points to use this one-time passwords are: the user being authenticated will enter his or her ID, and one-time password which goes to the server. The server receives the seed corresponding to the user ID from the user database and using a seed retrieval program. The server gives the seed and one-time password to a password validation program, and this program checks if one-time password and seed are related to each other, then it will be open. That is the use of the token. Next we are going to discuss about the types of authentication token. Response or challenge token. User sends a login request by providing only his user ID and not the one-time password. Server checks whether the user ID is valid. User receives the random challenge. The seed of the token encrypts the random challenge, which is then entered by the user in the password section of the login request. Server verifies the encrypted random challenge received by the user. Next is your time-based token. In a time-based token, the server need not send any random challenge to the user, and the token need not have a keypad for entry. In fact, it uses time in place of a random challenge, and the tokens automatically generate a password every 60 seconds and display the latest password on the LCD output for the user. So these are the time-based token, and in the server need not send any random challenge to the user, and the token need not have a keypad for entry. It uses time in place of random, like both and the OTP. There one OTP is the manual process, another is automatically. Everybody find that one OTP is coming automatically filled by the space, and it will be start to open the application. But something is that you have to open the message, then you enter the OTP manually, right? Now these are the difference. Certificate based authentication, step 1. What is the certificate based authentication? The certificate based authentication, working of certificate based authentication. Step 1, creation, storage and distribution of digital certificates. The first step in certificate based authentication is actually a prerequisite. The digital certificates are created by the CA for each user, and the certificates are sent to the respective user. But step 2, login request. During a login request, the user sends only his or her user ID to the server. Step 3, server creates a random challenge. When the server receives the user's login request containing the user ID alone, it first checks to see if the user ID is a valid one. If it is not, it sends an appropriate error message back to the user. If the user ID is valid, the server now creates a random challenge. Step 4, user signs the random challenge. The user has to sign the random challenge with her private key. After the user enters the correct password, the user's private key file is opened by the application. And step 4, user signs the random challenge. The user has to sign the random challenge with her private key. After the user enters the correct password, the user's private key file is opened by the application. It retrieves the private key from that file and uses it to encrypt the random challenge received from the server to create the user's digital signature. And next is your server returns an appropriate message back to the user. Finally, the server sends an appropriate message back to the user depending on whether the previous operations yielded success or failure. So this certificate based authentication, having the steps, through these steps you can authenticate it through the certificate. First is your creation, storage and distribution of digital certificates. Third one is your login the request. Fourth one is your server creates a random challenge. And fourth one is your user signs the random challenge. And step 5 is your server return an appropriate message back to the user. So these are regarding the certificate based authentication. Next come to the biometric authentication. This method of authentication is based on the unique biological characteristics of user such as fingerprints, voice or face recognition, signatures and eyes. A number of different types of physical characteristics are. That means this is the authentication through which you can the bio components of the human anatomy, by taking that thing you can authenticate it the people. So facial characteristics, fingerprints, hand geometry, retinal pattern, signatures, and also voice. So first come the facial characteristics. Humans are differentiated on the basis of facial characteristics such as eyes, nose, lips, eyebrows, and chin circle. So through which you can authenticate the people. Next is the fingerprints are believed to be unique across the entire human population. Hand geometry system identify features of hand that include shape, length, and width of fingers. Retinal pattern, it is concerned with the detailed structure of the eyes. Next, signature, every individual has a unique style of handwriting, and this feature is reflected in the signatures of a person. This method records the frequency pattern of the voice of an individual speaker. So this is known as the biometric authentication. So you can authenticate it through finger, you can authenticate it through retinal pattern or retina of the eyes, signatures or voice. So this is all about chapter number 6. Next class from chapter we will discuss about chapter number 7. Thank you to all.